नमस्कार। आपका इमर्जिंग लिटरेसी मास्टर क्लास में स्वागत है। थैंक यू एवरीवन फॉर टेकिंग आवर टाइम एवरी सैटरडे टू टेक योर लर्निंग फॉरवर्ड। सो व्हेन वी मीट फॉर दिस सेशन, हमारा मकसद है कि हम अपनी सोच को बड़ा करें। और मेन चीज टीचर के लिए ये होती है कि उनके पास एक वर्ल्ड व्यू होना चाहिए, बिकॉज टीचर के वर्ल्ड व्यू से चाइल्ड की लर्निंग और एजुकेशन बनती है। सो हमारी कोशिश ये है कि इस इमर्जिंग लिटरेसीज मास्टर क्लास में कि जैसे आप अपने यहाँ वर्कशॉप अटेंड करते हैं फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी पे, और यू अटेंड अ वर्कशॉप ऑन फूड लिटरेसी, we try and give you some digital literacy. We try and make you aware of what's happening in the world. And how we are doing it is we are following one of the most brilliant thinkers of the century, Yuval Noah Harari. So when we met last week, we started this fascinating chapter on work. When you grow up, you might not have a job. I know this is hard hitting, but matter of fact is this is where we are going. And we mentioned about the meeting of biotech and infotech. We talked about the C's, which Yuval says his four C's. And I argued and said that perhaps character and citizenship are two C's which will hold you through everything. We have a reflection from Dolly, we have a reflection from Seher. Seher says technology is changing the way we live and work. Some jobs may change or even disappear, but people are always more important than jobs. Well said, Seher. We should help people learn new skills and grow with changing times. Every person deserves care, respect, and equal opportunities. Machines can do so many tasks, but they can't replace kindness, creativity, or human values. Real progress is not just about better technology, it is about making life better for everyone. So that's the role of a teacher, making life better for everyone. And that's why we keep saying that teacher has to ensure that personal and social development of every individual takes place. Anyone wishes to add something to what Sahar has said? Okay, now let's see what Dolly has written. So Dolly says on the last session, when you grow up, you might not have a job, made me think deeply about how rapidly technology is changing our lives. Harari explains that artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics are no longer replacing only physical labor, but are increasingly capable of performing cognitive and creative tasks as well. This could fundamentally replace the job market in the coming decades. Yes, we will explore how that happens now. One of the most striking ideas in the chapter is that the future of work is uncertain. Brilliant, Dolly. Unlike previous technological revolutions, AI may replace many jobs faster than new ones are created, making continuous learning and adaptability essential. This challenged my belief that education alone guarantees lifelong job security. Instead, Harari emphasizes the importance of developing skills like critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, and the ability to learn new things throughout life. So, what I suggest that whenever you get time, there are no comments here. So it'd be nice if you can just add your comment just below this blog, or you can send us your comment on WhatsApp. So for example, you can do it very simple. Thank you. I'm doing one for you, Dolly and Seher, for your. Okay, so you can do like this. So you can write right here. Now this will come in continuation of the reflections on top. So every Sunday we create this reflections post. So you can write here straight. You can write in WhatsApp. You can write here straight. You can email us. We will be happy to produce them. I want to show you something interesting as we keep talking about digital literacy. There's an error in this post which I just read. So I'm going to show how I'm going to correct it for you. I don't know if people noticed or not. So we work on a platform called blogger.com. This is by Google. It's one of the oldest blogging platforms. On our blog, if you notice that out here, there should have been inverted commas opening and here inverted commas closing. We only close, we did not open. I noticed that. I'm not sure many noticed that. So I think this is what thinking deeply is about, where you read like a proofreader. A proofreader is a person who appreciates every alphabet, every word, every sentence, every paragraph. That's the think deeply. So here we go. We have now come back. So let's go back and show you what happened to our post. We'll go back to the home page. So we're back on Blogger and you see the editing has been done. So you can see here. So I just did this little exercise to explain to you that if you decide to set up a blog, just go to blogger.com and start your writing. You can make your personal notebook or you can even do graphics. You can import videos. Look at the page views in this. It's a beautiful blog which has over a decade and a half of teacher learning. I think it's one of the most powerful blogs in India today as far as teacher learning is concerned. I don't see a blog of so much depth in India beyond the Azim Premji University or some research organizations. Simple teacher learning blog it is. Now, if you go to a simple teacher learning blog, which we are sharing with you, here we are. And you see when people read what they are reading, they're reading building relational trust. This post has been read. They're reading small steps towards honesty. Someone recently read about map of success, introducing productive failure. Then Jab Jago Tabhi Savera. Someone read that, and that's it. So I just wanted to give you a feel of the blog. Now, what we have done, we have recapped, we have done the feel of the blog, and we will go back to the book. So when we are on the book, we are now going to go to the bookmark from exploitation to irrelevance. We are talking about the job market. Potential solutions fall into three main categories: what to do in order to prevent jobs from being lost, what to do in order to create enough new jobs, and what to do despite our best effort, job losses significantly outstrip job creation. This is where the world is. Preventing job losses altogether is an unattractive and probably untenable strategy because it means giving up the immense positive potential of AI and robotics. Nevertheless, governments might decide to deliberately slow down the pace of automation in order to lessen the resulting shocks and allow time for readjustments. Technology is never deterministic, and the fact that something can be done does not mean it must be done. Government regulation can successfully block new technologies, even if they are commercially viable and economically lucrative. For example, for many decades, we've had the technology to create the marketplace for human organs, complete with human body farms in underdeveloped countries and an almost insatiable demand from desperate affluent buyers. Such body farms could well be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Yet, regulations have prevented free trade in human body parts. And though there is a black market in organs, it is far smaller and more circumscribed than what one could have expected. Slowing down the pace of change may give us time to create enough new jobs to replace most of the losses. Yet, as noted earlier, economic entrepreneurship will have to be accompanied by a revolution in education and psychology. Pause. So, what you saw last week at a very minuscule level was this demand for a revolution in education, which you saw in the recent protests by the young generation. And important part in this is that why are we saying revolution in education and psychology? Psychology goes to thinking. So policymakers and all of us, we have to understand the psychology of the people and accordingly upgrade our education, learning, infrastructure, and delivery. Assuming that the new jobs won't be just government sinecures, they will probably demand high levels of expertise. And as AI continues to improve, human employees will need to repeatedly learn new skills and change their professions. So, this is the challenge you'll face. You won't be able to be a teacher for 30 years. You may have to change before that. Governments will have to step in both by subsidizing a lifelong education sector and by providing a safety net for the inevitable periods of transition. If a 40-year-old ex drone pilot takes 3 years to reinvent himself as a designer of virtual worlds, she may well need a lot of government help to sustain herself and her family during that time. This kind of scheme is currently being pioneered in Scandinavia, where governments follow the motto protect workers, not jobs. Yet, even if enough government help is forthcoming, it is far from clear whether billions of people could repeatedly reinvent themselves without losing their mental balance. Hence, if despite all our efforts, a significant percentage of humankind is pushed out of the job market, we would have to explore new models for post work societies, post work economies, and post work politics. The first step is to honestly acknowledge that the social, economic, and political models we have inherited from the past are inadequate for dealing with such a change. You are seeing this happen. Take for example, communism. As automation threatens to shake the capitalist system to its foundation, one might suppose that communism could make a comeback. But communism was not built to exploit the kind of crisis. 20th century communism assumed that the working class was vital for the economy, and communist thinkers tried to teach the proletariat how to translate its immense economic power into political clout. So, communism talks of the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Proletariat is the common man, bourgeoisie are the rulers or the leaders. The communist political plan called for a working class revolution. How relevant will these teachings be if the masses lose their economic value and therefore need to struggle against irrelevance rather than against exploitation? Exploitation happens more in the capitalist system, while communism has ways and means of checking that. But communism may endure into irrelevance. So we have to figure out whether it is irrelevance or exploitation, which is the worst evil. How do you start a working class revolution without a working class? Some may argue that humans could never become economically irrelevant because even if they cannot compete with AI in the workplace, they will always be needed as consumers. However, it is far from certain that the future economy will need us even as consumers. Let's pause here. Why the world is looking at to India? Because India is the largest consumer market in the world today. We have the largest number of young people, so we are hoping that this consumer market, हम पैसा खर्चेंगे, हमारी डिमांड बनेगी और इकोनॉमी चलेगी. So this book is even questioning this hypothesis. Machines and computers could do that too. Theoretically, you can have an economy in which a mining corporation produces and sells iron to a robotic corporation, and the robotic corporation produces and sells robots to the mining corporation, which mines more iron, which is used to produce more robots, and so on. These corporations can grow and expand to the far reaches of the galaxy, and all they need are robots and computers. They don't need humans even to buy their products. Fantastic example. Think about it, where we are today and where we are going. Indeed, already today, computers and algorithms are beginning to function as clients in addition to producers. In the stock exchange, for example, logarithms are becoming the most important buyers of bonds, shares, and commodities. So, logarithms decide what you should buy. Logarithms help you in trading. So, that's why they are saying it's not humans, it's the logarithms which are dictating what shares to buy and what commodities to trade. Similarly, in the advertising business, the most important customer of all is an algorithm, the Google search algorithm. When people design web pages, they often cater to the tastes of the Google search algorithm rather than to the taste of any human being. Your effort is always कि हम सर्च में ऊपर कैसे आएं, और आपको जान के खुशी होगी जब कोई दो स्कूल एजुकेशन वर्ड टाइप करता है, हमारी स्कूल एजुकेशन डॉट कॉम वेबसाइट नंबर 7 पेज पे आती है, which you must understand how much of effort has gone into writing the tags which become the logarithms. You know what happens, जो हम कंटेंट वेबसाइट में लिखते हैं उसके साथ अगर हम टैग लगाते हैं तो जो क्रॉलर्स होते हैं इंफॉर्मेशन के वो टैग्स पढ़ते हैं. So a well-tagged website is searched beautifully. So when I give you an example of your schooleducation.com, which is our home website, it's 7 on page. It says a lot for you. It's got 100% CEO ranking. Now CEO is search engine optimization. So that's the beauty. Google works in such a way you may ask a question, but it will show you what it wants to show you. And that's the role of the logarithm. Logarithms obviously have no consciousness. So, unlike human consumers, they cannot enjoy what they buy, and their decisions are not shaped by sensations and emotions. The Google search logarithm cannot taste ice cream. However, algorithms select things based on their internal calculations and built in preferences, and these preferences increasingly shape our world. सोचिए, the Google search logarithm has a very sophisticated taste when it comes to ranking the web pages of ice cream vendors. And the most successful ice cream vendors in the world are those that the Google logarithm ranks first, not those that produce the tastiest ice cream. So that's why it's very intelligent for you as teachers and for you as educators to understand this business of what we are talking about. Why you should know what is an logarithm, how you should read, how you should understand. The challenge today for this, what we call dumb scroll generation, is that no one will even read that one page. And 99% your first Google search is not what you need. That's an important part. Please understand, never look at the first Google search as your right answer. I can always fudge and come up on the Google ranking and you won't know. And it's going to be increasingly difficult for you to find that out as we go along. And that's why we said think deeply. So when you look at a Google search, let me show you on a page. For example, let's look at this page, which we have on top. This page comes to us from a particular web address. Now, if you read very carefully, it will be secure. You read very carefully, it will give you a whole string of characters, and you can go back and find out from where it originated. It's not easy for you on your phone to even see the web address. I'm seeing that because I am on a very large screen and I can see every character in my URL. So that's the depth you have to think. Imagine finding every character and the URL and then reading the URL. When you read the URL, you will realize how much your search is biased by not just your thought, but by thought of the community, society, and the people around you. If many people search one particular thing, then obviously there is a reason for Google to figure out why you are thinking that way. Now, if Google can figure out why you are thinking that way, it can recommend something what it can recommend to all of you. That's how it works. I know this from personal experience. When I publish a book, the publishers ask me to write a short description and they use for publicity online. But they have a special expert who adapts what I write to the taste of the Google algorithm. This expert goes over my text and says, don't use this word, use that word instead. This happens when I publish my book. Expert editors come in and they advise us a lot on the editing of a book. It takes almost a year for me to actually get a book edited. Perhaps that was the year in 2020. If I do it now, it won't take me a day even. That's how the world has changed in 5 years. Then we will get more attention from the Google algorithm. We know that if we can catch the eye of the algorithm, we can take the humans for granted. I've explained that to you. So if humans are needed neither as producers nor as consumers, what will safeguard their physical survival? and their psychological well being. What a question. We cannot wait for the crisis to erupt in full force before we start looking for answers. By then, it will be too late. In order to cope with the unprecedented technological and economic disruptions of the 21st century, we need to develop new social and economic models as soon as possible. These models should be guided by the principles of protecting humans rather than jobs. Let's go back when we started this session. This is what Dolly wrote in her post. We have to protect humans and not jobs. And that's what is happening in Scandinavia on an experiment. Many jobs are uninspiring drudgery, not worth saving. Nobody's life dream is to be a cashier. What we should focus on is providing for people's basic needs and protecting their social status and self worth. So, governments, we say, should have less role, but as we go along and we see the experience of the Scandinavian countries, we find that governments become more important as economies progress and develop, because government starts looking at welfare of people than looking at industry development, and that's when developed economies go. So if you look at, let us say, you look at Finland and Norway, there most people get certain things for granted, the government gives them. So even if they will not die hungry, they'll be well looked after, they will not die of cold, the government will look after them. That's where they are protecting humans rather than jobs. One new model which is gaining increasing attention is universal basic income. UBI proposes that governments tax the billionaires and corporations, controlling the logarithms and robos, and use the money to provide every person with a generous stipend, covering his or her basic needs. This will cushion the poor against job loss and economic dislocation, while protecting the rich from populist rage. I'll give you an example. I have a walking friend, and he is well established in the industry. So he gave me a very interesting analogy. We said, what if we could compensate for people to stay back in the villages and give them food vouchers, give them other things? He says that's what we have to look at in the long run if we want to protect the environment. Because the minute we have urban migration from rural areas, the whole imbalance happens. If we can check that, we can do a lot. So if we can compensate the people for keeping the country green, that's where things will change. So similar kind of thing will have to be done on a larger scale. A related idea proposes to widen the range of human activities that are considered to be jobs. At present, billions of parents take care of children, neighbors look after one another, and citizens organize communities without any of these valuable activities being recognized as jobs. So if a mom is staying back home, she ought to be compensated. Maybe we need to turn a switch in our minds and realize that taking care of a child is arguably the most important challenging job in the world. I can say this with veracity. Having given birth to children and now seeing grandchildren, it is the toughest job to look after a child in the world. And no matter how specialist you may be, it's always tough. So you ought to be compensated for doing that. That's the story behind this. And if you look at paying everyone or valuing every individual in the same way as a human, the whole economy and the country will change. If so, there won't be a shortage of work even if computers and robots replace all the drivers, bankers, and lawyers. The question is, of course, who would evaluate the pay for these newly recognized jobs? So that's the interesting question. Assuming 6-month-old babies will not pay a salary to their mums, the government will probably have to take this upon itself. Assuming, too, that we would like these salaries to cover all the family's basic needs, the end result will be something that is not very different from universal basic income. Alternatively, governments could subsidize universal basic services rather than income. So here's another interesting concept, that instead of giving income, why don't we service people? Instead of giving money to people who then shop around for whatever they want, the government may subsidize free education, free healthcare, free transport, and so forth. This, in fact, the utopian vision of communism. Though the communist plan to start a working class revolution might well become outdated, maybe we should still aim to realize the communist goal by their means. So everyone's basic requirements should be met. That is the whole idea behind this. And we as teachers, when we look at children, we look at them as all equals in a class. And for us, there's no difference between each child. Their abilities are their own. And for us as teachers, the utopian vision is every child should succeed. And how does every child succeed? When you make sure you pay attention to whatever the child's needs are. So, similarly, if the governments pay attention to the needs of the people, there would be a better world. It is debatable whether it is better to provide people with universal basic income, which is what capitalist paradise do. So, capitalists like the economy or the free market economy, it talks of income only, while the communist paradise talks of services. Both options have advantages and drawbacks. But no matter which paradise you choose, the real problem is in defining what universal basic and actual means. So I'll pose a question here to you people to see what do you think? You can unmute, anyone can unmute and talk. We don't need hands up. What do you think are your basic needs as a teacher, as an individual? Anyone, just unmute and talk. If you were to just be where you are, what are your basic requirements? Rashmi, would you like to add something?
For a conducive environment.
Yeah. So you're talking of an environment. I'm talking, what are your basic needs to live happily, ma'am? That's what I'm asking.
Good food.
Yes, food. What else?
Yes. Shelter.
Perfect. Brilliant. What else?
Need not be a big one. Happiness, which I can't
Yes.
buy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about well-being, health, shelter. So if the
Yes.
government provided this to everyone, then you will not feel the struggle of job losses in this transition. So what I'm trying to explain is how governments can step in to overcome this changing world. And that's what you said, three very beautiful things. अगर रोटी कपड़ा मकान सबको मिल जाएगा तो हमारे दुख दर्द कम हो जाएंगे. Let's keep it at that. And that's why you see today over the years how Ayushman Bharat in India is trying to provide basic insurance to a lot of people in health, how government public schools are providing basic education, how we are working towards housing for all. That's another program we have. We have so many programs, but ma'am, bottom line is पैसा तो limited ही है. So अब interesting चीज क्या आती है governments के लिए, that they have to generate enough revenue so that people's basic needs can be met. And they can only do that, how it's been explained there, is get the money from taxation, get the money from the wealthy. And if you look at in India example today, the top 2% in India hold almost 80% of India's wealth. So it's a very interesting thing. How do you translate that wealth into providing universal basic services? So let's read on. It's a very interesting chapter. Thank you, Rashmi. I hope you're enjoying this session.
Yes, sir.
सो अब आप वहीं उसी सवाल पे आ गए, व्हाट इज यूनिवर्सल, जो हम कह रहे हैं कि क्या चीज यूनिवर्सल है, किसको हम यूनिवर्सल समझते हैं और क्या होना चाहिए. व्हेन पीपल स्पीक अबाउट यूनिवर्सल बेसिक सपोर्ट, वेदर इन द शेप ऑफ इनकम और सर्विसेज, दे यूजुअली मीन national basic support, hitherto all UBI, not UPI but UBI, universal basic income initiatives, have been strictly national or municipal. In January 2017, Finland began a 2-year experiment. I was talking of Scandinavian countries and Finland, providing 2,000 unemployed Finns with 560 euros a month, irrespective of whether they find work or not. Similar experiments are underway in the Canadian province of Ontario, in the Italian city of Livorno, and in several Dutch cities. In 2016, Switzerland held a referendum on instituting a national basic income scheme, but voters rejected the idea. The problem with such national and municipal schemes, however, is that the main victims of automation may not live in Finland, Ontario, Livorno, or Amsterdam. Globalization has made people in one country utterly dependent on markets in the other countries. But automation might unravel large parts of this global trade network with disastrous consequences for the weakest link. In the 20th century, developing countries lacking natural resources made economic progress by selling the cheap labor of their unskilled workers. Today, millions of Bangladeshis make a living by producing shirts and selling them to customers in the United States, while people in Bangalore earn their keep in call centers dealing with the complaints of American customers. Yet, with the rise of AI, robots, and 3D printers, cheap, unskilled labor would become far less important. So, this is where the world is changing, and your system is only helping people to become cheap, unskilled labor. Now, how can you and me work so that people can think deeply? How people can go beyond and put AI and robots to work? That's where people will be required. Instead of manufacturing a shirt in Dhaka and shipping it all the way to US, you could buy the shirt's code online from Amazon and print it in New York. 3D printers are already here. The Zara and Prada stores on Fifth Avenue would be replaced by 3D printing centers in Brooklyn. Kunal just told me this morning that we should now put up a 3D printer in our lab here, or in our, what we call the My Good School in Dehradun, which is above a bookstore. So that is an interesting thought, and now I know where his thought came from. And some people might even have a printer at home. Simultaneously, instead of calling customer service in Bangalore to complain about your printer, you could talk with an AI representative in the Google Cloud. Now, if you go to Amazon and in your Amazon app, there is a chatbot named Rufus. Try talking to Rufus. Rufus can really help you a lot of things, and it's not human driven. So today, if you send us a message, also, by the way, uh, I'm sharing this with you. I think I should, because our WhatsApp today is almost fully automated. There is no way that our team of 1.5 can manage to work with 53 members of the Good School Alliance if our WhatsApp was not automated. So the beautiful part is you will often get a message which solves your challenges without even us getting involved. And if you ask for more, it will say, okay, fine, I'll find you an expert. That's how most responsive systems work today in the industry. The unemployed workers and call center operators in Dhaka and Bangalore don't have the education necessary to switch to designing fashionable shirts or writing computer code. So, how will they survive? In AI and 3D printers indeed take over from the Bangladeshis and Bangaloreans, the revenues that previously flowed to South Asia will now fill the coffers of a few tech giants in California. This is what Trump is doing. Instead of economic growth improving conditions all over the world, we might see immense new wealth created in high tech hubs such as Silicon Valley, while many developing countries collapse. Of course, many emerging economies like India and Bangladesh might advance fast enough to join the winning team. So that's why we are saying that we need to accelerate our country's economic capabilities and catch up. The gap between the north and the south is huge, and that's what needs to be bridged. And that's why we in India keep saying that we have to have a better growth rate than just 6 7%. Only when we'll have a double digit growth rate can we overcome this challenge of changing world order, and then you as teachers will have an opportunity to survive if you can improve children and prepare them for the new world. Given enough time, the children or grandchildren of textile workers and call center operators might well become the engineers and entrepreneurs to build and own the computers and 3D printers. But the time to make such a transition is running out. In the past, cheap, unskilled labor was served as a secure bridge, while across the global economic divide, and even if a country advanced slowly, it could expect to reach safety eventually. So the world has changed. Taking the right steps was more important than making speedy progress. So what this means, like countries chose alliances. So countries took conscientious decisions whom to stand by. They never thought of their progress. Yet now the bridge is shaking and soon it might collapse. Those who've already crossed it, graduating from cheap labor to high skill industries, will probably be okay. but those lagging behind might find themselves stuck on the wrong side of the chasm without any means of crossing over. What do you do when nobody needs your cheap, unskilled laborers and you don't have the resources to build a good education system and teach them new skills? We are at this point in the country. What then will be the fate of these stragglers? American voters might conceivably agree that taxes paid by Amazon and Google for their US businesses could be used to give stipends or free services to unemployed miners in Pennsylvania and jobless taxi drivers in New York. However, would American voters also agree that these taxes should be sent to support unemployed people in places defined by President Trump as shithole countries? If you believe that, you might just as well believe that Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny will solve the problem. So, this is the interesting thing, and I'm sure it makes you think, what is basic? So, let's try and find out. We'll try and answer this question now. Universal basic support is meant to take care of basic human needs, but there is no accepted definition for that. From a pure biological perspective, a sapiens need just 1500 to 2500 calories per day to survive, in order to survive. Anything more is a luxury. Yet, over and above this biological poverty line, every culture in history defined additional needs as basic. In medieval Europe, access to church services as seen as even more important than food because it took away the care of your eternal soul rather than of your ephemeral body. So he's talking about the eternal soul and ephemeral body. So when Ma'am Minakshi ji said about well-being. In today's Europe, decent education and healthcare services are considered basic human needs. And some argue that even access to internet is now essential for every man, woman, and child. If by 2050 the United World Government agrees, United World Government, look what it says, to tax Google, Amazon, Baidu, and Tencent in order to provide basic support for every human being on earth in Dhaka as well as Detroit, how will you define basic? For example, what does basic education include? Just reading and writing? Or also composing computer code and playing the violin? Just 6 years of primary school? Or everything up to PhD? And what about healthcare? If by 2050 medical advances make it possible to slow down aging process and significantly extend human lifespan, will the new treatments be available to all 10 billion humans on the planet or just a few billionaires? If biotechnology enables parents to upgrade their children, would this be considered a basic human need? Or would we see humankind splitting into different biological castes, with rich superhumans enjoying abilities that far surpass of poor Homo sapiens? Whichever way you choose to define basic human needs, once you provide them to everyone free of charge, they will be taken for granted. Then fierce social competitions and political struggles will focus on basic luxuries. Be they fancy self driving cars, access to virtual reality parks, or enhancing bioengineering bodies. Yet, if the unemployed masses command no economic assets, it is hard to see how they could ever hope to obtain such luxuries. Consequently, the gap between the rich, Tencent is a software company, Tencent managers and Google shareholders, and the poor, those dependent on universal basic income, might become not merely big, but actually unbridgeable. Hence, even if some universal support scheme provides poor people in 2050 with much better healthcare and education than today, they might still be extremely angry about global inequality and the lack of social mobility. People will feel that the system is rigged against them, that the government serves only the super rich, and the future will be even worse for them and their children. This is what we say. I will repeat this. People will feel that the system is rigged against them, that the government serves only the super rich, and the future will be even worse for them and their children. Homo sapiens is just not built for satisfactions. Homo sapiens are species. Human happiness depends less on objective conditions and more on your own expectations. Expectations, however, tend to adapt to conditions, including the condition of other people. When things improve, expectations balloon, and consequently, even dramatic improvements in conditions might leave you as dissatisfied as before. If universal basic support is aimed at improving the objective conditions or the average person in 2050, it has a fair chance of succeeding. But if it is aimed at making people subjectively more satisfied with their lot and preventing social discontent, it is likely to fall. So you see social discontent today that can bring down governments. To really achieve its goals, universal basic support will have to be supplemented by some meaningful pursuits ranging from sports to religion. How do you keep people occupied? And that's one reason why schooling came up. So people don't take the law in their hands and they are kept occupied. So you started first 10th, 5th pass was great. Then you made it 10th pass, metric kar lo. Then you made it secondary school. Then you made it 10 plus 2. Now you say college भी जोड़ लो, PhD भी जोड़ लो और ये बढ़ाते चले जाने हैं ताकि आप 25-30 साल तक पढ़ते रहो और प्रॉब्लम ना क्रिएट करो. Perhaps the most successful experiment so far in how to live a contented life in the post-work world has been conducted in Israel. There, about 50% of ultra Orthodox Jewish men never work. They dedicate their lives to studying holy scriptures and performing religious rituals. They and their families don't starve because the wives often work, and partly because the government provides them with generous subsidies and free services, making sure they don't lack the basic necessities of life. Go back to the Gurukula system. The Dronacharyas and the Gurus, they were taken care by the kings. Their life's requirements were met and they delivered quality in learning. That's universal basic support. Avant la lettre. Although this is a French term, avant la lettre. So let me know, click this. Let me see if I can show this to you. So try and discover this term, avant la lettre. Let me see if I can expand the screen and get all this in one page. So, avant la lettre. Can anyone Google and tell us what avant la lettre is? Let's figure this out. Okay, here we've got it. So we will see what avant la lettre is. We go here. I'm telling you how to use Kindle. Now we can refer to a dictionary from here. Let's see how we can do that. What does this say? You write a note. No, we won't write a note. I'm trying to get the meaning. Okay, yeah. Why I'm not getting the meaning? Because this is an English dictionary. Avant la lettre is a word in French. So I'll copy this. I will go back. I'll put it in my browser. And when I come back to my browser, I'll share the tab with you. So avant la lettre is a French phrase meaning before the letter, used to describe someone or something that existed or acted like a specific concept before the concept, word, or title was officially named or invented. Origin and meaning: liberal translation before the letter, derived from the old printing term for a proof or engrave printed. So that before you could read the printed stuff, someone checked it. So figurative meaning, being ahead of time. So when we're talking about avant la lettre, we're actually talking about being ahead of time. So they are giving the example of Israel being ahead of time. Although they are poor and unemployed in survey after survey, these ultra Orthodox Jewish men report higher levels of life satisfaction than any other section of Israeli society. Take the case of the Tibetan monks or the Buddhists who practice. This is due to the strength of their community bonds as well as the deep meaning they find in studying scriptures and performing rituals. A small room full of Jewish men discussing the Talmud might well generate more joy, engagement, and insight than a huge textile sweatshop full of hardworking factory hands. In global surveys of life satisfaction, Israel is usually somewhere near the top, thanks in part to the contribution of these jobless poor people. So, what you call jobless poor, they've actually given a semblance to life, and that's where being humans, and the well-being of humans, what we've been talking all through this work changing phase to the reflections you shared with us. Secular Israelis often complain bitterly
Yeah,
that the ultra-Orthodox don't
we
contribute enough
can't
to
see the
society.
screen, sir. Can you
Yeah,
switch it?
sorry. So the example here, what I was telling you is the good thing about what we are doing is you can hear, you can see, you can feel, you can touch. And that's why I'm glad you brought this up. But I'm sure what I was reading was well and audible. So what happens is some of us are very good audible, some of us are very good visual, some of us have so many other sensitivities. And we as teachers have to understand that in a classroom, that we have to reach out to every sensitivity. I'm grateful you brought this up. Secular Israelis often complain bitterly that the ultra Orthodox don't contribute enough to society and live off others people's hard work. So आप यही बोलोगे ना, पुजारी जी तो कुछ काम करते नहीं है, हमारे दान से खाते हैं. Secular Israelis also tend to argue that ultra Orthodox way of life is unsustainable, especially as ultra Orthodox families have 7 children on an average. Sooner or later, the state will not be able to support so many unemployed people, and the ultra Orthodox will have to go to work. Yet, it might be just the reverse. As robots and AI push humans out of job market, the ultra-Orthodox Jews may come to be seen as a model of the future rather than a fossil from the past. Not that everyone will become Orthodox Jews and go to the yeshivas, yeshivas to study the Talmud, but in the lives of all people, the question of meaning and for community might eclipse the quest for jobs. If we manage to combine a universal economic safety net with strong community and meaningful pursuit, losing our jobs to the logarithm might actually turn out to be a blessing. Losing control over our lives, however, is a much scarier scenario, notwithstanding the danger of mass unemployment. What we should worry about even more is the shift in authority from humans to logarithms, which might destroy any remaining faith in the liberal story and open the way to the rise of digital dictatorship. So, this is where we are ending up today. We will take a pause here. I will take a screenshot of this and leave this in the WhatsApp chat. I think this one paragraph alone will help you think. Give it a thought. This will, and next to this, I will add a bookmark. I'm back on the screen. So what I will do is I'll flip here and I will create a bookmark. I'm now on Kindle. So when we come next week, we will start chapter 3. So we will begin chapter 3 next week. Let's add that. So bookmark for 8th August 2026, chapter 3 opens. So if you feel like reading a little ahead, please read and come. We can have a discussion. And next week, you may not have me in my studio as I'm traveling, but definitely my promise has to be kept. I have to have, I have to attend, I have to be with you, and that's what I've done for the last 5 years. At my good school, at Happy Teachers Academy, we are always there with you. So it's been a wonderful evening. Thank you, Team Ayodhya. Khushi, आज कुछ बोली नहीं. Khushi is my youngest. Rashmi, ma'am, over to you. Thank you for coming in. Lovely to see you, ma'am.
I'm going to be trying to be more regular now.
फैंटास्टिक. आई एम सो हैप्पी मैम. अगर हम आप और हम केवल एक 45, आज देखो हमने 1 घंटा भी नहीं लगाया. सो होता
जी
क्या है, चैप्टर लेंथ पे थोड़ा सा हो जाता है कई बार. आई ट्राई लिटिल मोर टू कवर अप द चैप्टर बिकॉज किताब लंबी है और 1 साल लग जाएगा इसको धीरे धीरे पढ़ते. बट धीरे धीरे पढ़ना बहुत जरूरी है और केवल 45 मिनट जो हम पढ़ते हैं ये भी बहुत जरूरी है और इसी से हम साल में 1 या 2 किताबें पढ़ सकते हैं. सो अब हम बार बार ये कहते हैं रीड टू लीड और हम आपको करके दिखा रहे हैं. और टीचर्स को मैं ये चीज कहता हूँ, आप प्रैक्टिस करेंगे तो आप प्रीच करने लायक है, नहीं तो आप प्रीच करने लायक नहीं.
Yeah. No, the 3:30 time was a little this thing. We are caught up into the thing, but this 5:30 thing is okay, comfortable with me.
तो रश्मि मैम, हमने तो ये बोला था कि आप समय भी चुन लो, रीडर भी चुन लो, किताब भी
हाँ
चुन लो, कुछ तो करो।
हाँ
तो सैटरडे को 2 सेशन होते हैं, संडे को 2 घंटे होते हैं, उसमें से आधा
हाँ
घंटा आ जाओ, आधा घंटा आ जाओ
हाँ।
इसमें। थैंक यू रश्मि मैम, थैंक यू सो
मोस्ट
मच।
वेलकम, मोस्ट वेलकम।
एनीवन एल्स वांट्स टू से एनीथिंग?
Jai Hind, sir.
Good evening, sir.
जय हिंद। खुशी, यू वांट टू ऐड
This session
समथिंग?
was so fantastic today. After so many days, we attended this. So we are happy to attend this sessions today. From today, we'll try कि we'll attend every day
थैंक यू,
and
थैंक यू
every
मनोज जी।
week.
या सी एक्चुअली 5:30 बजे मैंने देखा है समय, अगर हम निकालना चाहें सब निकाल सकते हैं, क्योंकि जो रोज की दूर दराज जिंदगी है ना, इस वक्त 5:30 बजे खाना बनाना भी इसके बाद हो सकता है, और स्कूल से आना इससे पहले हो सकता है। तो अगर हम वैसे देखेंगे तो आधा पौना घंटा आप अपने लिए जरूर निकालें, क्योंकि आप अगर अपने माइंड को नर्चर नहीं करेंगे तो जो आपका सौंदर्य है वो घट जाएगा। क्योंकि हम सौंदर्य के ऊपर बहुत फोकस करते हैं, और जो दिमाग है, जो असली सौंदर्य है, उसको भूल जाते हैं। और उस सौंदर्य को नर्चर इसी तरीके से कर सकते हैं, हम रीड करें, हम रिफ्लेक्ट करें, और हम अपनी रिलेशनशिप बनाएं। जैसे आप यहाँ हैं, आप जब हमारे से बात करते हैं, आपको सच बताऊं, हमारा हार्ट रेट कम हो जाता है। हार्ट रेट कम क्यों होता है? व्हेन यू फील रिलैक्स्ड। सो एंड आई प्रॉमिस यू दिस रीडिंग इज लाइक मेडिटेशन। यू विल बी एबल टू रिलैक्स योर सेल्फ। सो एंजॉय योर सेल्फ। रश्मि मैम, हम जल्दी पहुंच रहे हैं आपके शहर में। Thank you. So we have a traveling workshop
Eagerly
happening.
waiting for you all to come, sir. Eagerly
Well, the
waiting for you.
advance party is on the way. They will see you in August. So
Yeah,
we
sure,
will
sir.
set things up. So
Yeah.
हमारे पास 3 तरीके के प्रोग्राम्स हैं। एक तो जो हम ऑनलाइन रीडिंग करते हैं, दूसरा हम माई गुड स्कूल रिट्रीट करते हैं साल में 2 बार, एक बार जयपुर और एक बार करते हैं वाराणसी में। उसमें टीचर
जी
बच्चे सब आ जाते हैं, 100-150 लोग इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं। और उसके
जी
अलावा हम एक चीज और करते हैं जिसको हम बोलते हैं लर्निंग फॉरवर्ड रिट्रीट, जो हम केवल देहरादून में करते हैं, जहां हमने एक लर्निंग सेंटर बनाया। वी इन्वेस्टेड वेरी हेविली इन द हार्ट ऑफ द सिटी इन रेजिडेंशियल अकोमोडेशन। So we expect 3 to 4 to maximum 5 teachers from 1 or 2 schools to come to us and spend just 2 days with us. And I promise you, those 2 days will change your world. वेबसाइट पे जब आप जाएंगे, आप देखेंगे, मैं आपको वेबसाइट दिखा देता हूं जाने से पहले, देन वी शट। सो हम यहाँ अवंत इस पेज पे थे। अब मैं इसका मीनिंग आपको समझा देता हूं कि आप दुनिया में अहेड कैसे रहेंगे। आप तब रहेंगे अहेड जब आप हमारे पास आएंगे, और हमारी जो एकेडमी है, जिसको हम लर्निंग फॉरवर्ड एकेडमी कहते हैं। अब देखिए मैं क्या टाइप कर रहा हूँ ब्राउजर में, lifin.academy। इट्स वेरी सिंपल। तो हम यहाँ क्या करते हैं, जब आप हमारे पास आते हैं, और अभी हाल ही में हमारे पास डीपीएस आबू रोड से टीचर आए थे, हम ये केवल इतना काम करते हैं बस। दैट्स द स्क्रीनशॉट ऑफ आवर लर्निंग फॉरवर्ड प्रोग्राम। We evaluate the 3 R's: reading, reflection, and relationship. We share a school which has equal opportunity in service, skill, sport, and study. And we actually help you find out what is learning for life, focusing on 6 C's. This is the curriculum of our Saturday sessions in Dehradun. So your school should sign up. Sorry, Saturday session. This is called the Learning Forward Retreat. And I suggest every school send their teachers to us once in a term. 2-3 teachers you can always spare. And I am committed that we will show them a new world altogether. अभी तो हम केवल 45 मिनट किताब के लिए मिलते हैं, आप पूरी दुनिया देख सकते हैं। यहाँ आप देखिए, जो टीचर हमारे यहाँ से ग्रेजुएट बन के गए हैं, क्योंकि 2 दिन में हम आपको ग्रेजुएशन करा देते हैं, जो आपने अपने पोस्ट ग्रेड में भी नहीं करा होगा। और ये देखिए, ये टीचर्स ने अपनी लर्निंग आउटकम्स हमारे ब्लॉग पे, हमारे वेबसाइट पे पोस्ट किए हैं। आप इसे देखिए, ये वाला जो लिंक है मैं ये भी पोस्ट कर देता हूं। और अपना सामान इकट्ठा कीजिए, अपने प्रिंसिपल को बोलिए, चलो देहरादून। वेलकम, थैंक यू एवरीवन, इट्स बीन अ वंडरफुल इवनिंग। आई हैव एंजॉयड बीइंग विद यू ऑल। गॉड ब्लेस यू, हैप्पी जर्नी। रश्मि मैम, गोइंग होम?
Going home, sir.
Lovely, have a safe journey and great evening to everyone. Some of you may come tomorrow morning. I see a hand up. Let's see a beautiful hand up. So where is the beautiful hand? Kushi Kumari, you don't have to say hand up. You just unmute and talk.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, Kushi.
So,
Yeah.
hello everyone. I'm Khushi, and yes, I didn't speak that much in the session because I was continuously, grabbing all the stuff and all the knowledge you were emitting right now, because this session was more of a kind of knowledgeful than the other ones. The other ones were more of like practical knowledge, and this one was more like I was taking all the notes at the very same time you were reading. And yes, I enjoyed the session. And the thing that you mentioned in the session right now when you were talking to Rashmi ma'am, that reading is like a therapy. So I would say it's more than a therapy. I like, for me especially. So yeah, I love reading here with you all and love learning with you all.
Thank you. I just flashed the blog. The blog is very simple, happyteacher.in. So you will find a summary of this session. I'll write it tomorrow. I'm fagged out today. It's been a long day. So I sleep tonight, and tomorrow I will produce your video, which I will share in WhatsApp. So you can teachers who have not been able to make it. So we are going ahead to what we told Rashmi ma'am. कभी भी कहीं भी कैसे भी. So आप वीडियो रिप्ले करके भी हमारे सेशन को अटेंड कर सकते हैं. उससे ज्यादा हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. अब हम थक गए. So God bless everybody and help me to be good. That's my favorite prayer, and you can repeat it. It's very simple. God bless everybody and help me to be good. God bless every teacher. Cheers. Bye bye. Thank you, Kushi, for your inputs, and have a great evening.
Jai
Thank
Hind,
you
sir.
so much.
Jai Hind. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.